I just did a big haul, so I feel like it's time for balance. Hi, welcome, come on in. My name is Aoife and today I am clearing out quite a few books on my shelf. I haven't counted these. I don't know how many there is, but there is so many books to get through. I've taken a look at the books on my shelf and figured out what I'm not going to read, what I'm not going to read again, and I'm going to say goodbye to them. Let's take a look at what the books are. First one off is The Uncommon Reader by Alan Bennett. I believe that this is about Queen Elizabeth and how much she enjoys reading. I was given this in like a book swap, Secret Santa blind book swap around Christmas 2019, and I've just never gone to pick it up, so I don't think it's one that I'm going to prioritize anytime soon. Next up is The Loneliest Girl in the Universe by Lauren James. I really enjoyed this one, but it's not one that I think I'm going to read again. I don't really tend to reread books where there's a massive twist at the end or where something surprising happens. And because I know what happens in this book, because I know what the outcome is at the end, it kind of ruins my enjoyment of it a little bit, so I don't think I'm going to pick it back up. However, somebody out there might really love it. Next is Perfectly Preventable Deaths by Deirdre Sullivan. I loved this when I read it, but I don't think I'm going to go and pick it back up again. I'm not a big urban fantasy reader, and this has kind of urban fantasy tones about it, so I don't think it's one I'm going to go for again. Next up is No Big Deal by Bethany Rutter. I read this a couple of years ago and I really enjoyed it, but I think that somebody else is going to really enjoy it as well because it's not a book that I'm going to reread again. Next is Rose Interrupted by Patrice Lawrence. This is about cults, which I really enjoy. I love kind of reading about cults and how people get out of that and live in our world when they haven't done that before. But I found this one really hard to get into and I don't think I'm going to try it again. Next up is The Summer I Turned Pretty by Jenny Han. I had kind of mixed feelings about this. I didn't love it as much as I was expecting to, so I think probably time to say goodbye to it. Next is Dominicana by Angie Cruz. This was the first book that I read in 2021 and I really enjoyed it, but again, it's not a book that I'm going to go back to. It's not one that I'm going to pick up again, but I know that somebody out there might really enjoy it. Next is The Last Ones Left Alive by Sarah Davis Gough. This is kind of like a horror book for young adult readers. Horror is not a genre that I genuinely enjoy. Tried this, DNF'd it after about 20 pages. Don't think I'm going to pick it up again. Next up is The Rest of the Story by Sarah Desson. I tried this one in about February, I think, and I didn't love it. Not enough that I will go back and read it twice. Next up is The Outsider by Emily Hurricane. This was sent to me as a proof copy by the publisher. And I didn't read it. I did pick it out in one of my TBR games, but I discovered that there was a cheating narrative by reading the blurb a little bit closer. Not a big fan of cheating narratives, and it feels like that's kind of woven a lot of the way through the book, so I think this is one that I'm going to have to say goodbye to. Next up is Nix gegen Ihren. This is one that I was given as a gift. Never picked it up. Don't think I'm going to pick it up anytime soon. However, I live in Germany. Somebody out there is definitely going to have the level of German needed to read this one. Next is A Suitable Marriage by Muriel Bulger. I was also sent this one as a proof copy and I just never got around to it. It never really piqued my interest and I don't think that that's going to change anytime soon. Next is Things We Didn't Talk About When I Was a Girl by Jenny Vanasco. Again, I was sent this as a proof copy and it's just not one that I've ever been drawn to. It feels like it's a very heavy book. It's about sexual assault, surviving sexual assault and how to rebuild your life after it. It feels like a really heavy topic and I just don't think I'm going to be in the mindset for it anytime soon. Next is the next two books in the Summer I Turned Pretty series by Jenny Han. I didn't love the first book enough to warrant reading the next two. This is kind of the thing that I do. I buy a full series and then read the first book and then realize not really my cup of tea, and that's something that I should definitely stop doing. Next is Well Met by Jen DeLuca. The only reason I'm getting rid of this is that I have two copies. It doesn't seem like a fair idea to keep two of them. Next is Middle England by Jonathan Coe. This was supposed to be read by my book club here. We never read it. We actually stopped meeting because of the pandemic the month that we were supposed to read this, and I never really picked it up, so I think somebody else is going to have to enjoy this one for me. Next is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. Again, the only reason I'm getting rid of this is that I have two copies of it. Next is Wassermelone, the German translation of Watermelon by Marion Keyes. Only reason I'm getting rid of this is that it is in German. I haven't tried to pick it up in German yet, and I have a copy of the English book on my Kindle and in physical form, so I don't really see the point in keeping this one too. Next is Finding Gobi by Dion Leonard. I was given this as a birthday present from a company that I used to work with, and I've just never tried to pick it up, even though it has a dog on the cover, and I'm pretty sure that there's a big narrative about a dog. I don't think, though, that I want to read a story about a dog that goes missing. I don't think that that's something that I would enjoy. Next up is What If It's Us by Becky Albertalli and Adam Silvera. I have seen Gavin's review of this about 20 times now, and it has absolutely cemented into me that this is not a book that I'm going to enjoy, unfortunately. Next is Birthday by Meredith Russo. I have heard a couple of questionable things about the author, and I think that that's going to impact how I would enjoy the book, so it's probably not one that I'm going to enjoy as much. And so the final pile. On the pile is The Storyteller by Jodi Picoult. You may have seen this in my most recent This Book Will Self-Destruct. It turns out this one is self-destructing already. I have a bit of a mixed relationship with Jodi Picoult, and I think it might finally be time to say goodbye. Next is Colorless Tsukuru Tatsaki and His Years of Pilgrimage by Haruki Murakami. I enjoyed this. I didn't enjoy it enough to keep it, and I don't think I'm going to read any more of his books, so it's probably time to say goodbye. Next up is Ready to Fall by Marcela Pixley. This book, its main character's mother suffered from breast cancer. That's something that's a little bit close to the bone for me, and I don't think I'm ready to read that just yet. Next up is The Heart of Summer by Felicity Hayes McCoy. Again, this was sent to me by the publisher for review, and it's just not piqued my interest enough for me to pick it up, and I do not see that changing anytime soon. Next is Unfiltered by Sophie White. I read this at the start of the year, and I really genuinely enjoyed it. But I have given the first book in the series to a friend of mine, and I think she really enjoyed it as well. So if she liked it as much as I did, I think she should get their second copy and that she can continue the series. Next up is the German copies of the first two books in the Aisling series by Sarah Breen and Emer McLysett. I tried reading the first copy. You can see how far into it I've tabbed. But I think I would enjoy them a lot more in English. I think the story comes across better in English. The narrative, the slang that Aisling would use, the situations that she's in, I think it just comes across a little bit better when it's in its native language. Next up is This Eden by Ed O'Loughlin. From the blurb, it feels like this is kind of a gamer book. It's got fantasy vibes, and that's just not the kind of thing that I'm interested in. Next up is Can You Keep a Secret by Sophie Kinsella. I have fallen out of love with Sophie Kinsella over the last couple of years. And unfortunately, this book is going to be a victim of that because I just don't think I have it in me to give Sophie Kinsella's books another chance. Next is What Magic Is This by Holly Bourne. I read this in 2019 or so, and I loved it so much. But I don't think that I'm the target audience for it, and somebody out there is going to really, really enjoy it. And finally, we have Toffee by Sarah Crossan. I absolutely adored this book, but it's just not one that I'm going to go back and reread. Somebody out there is going to really enjoy it. All of those books are either going to go to friends of mine or go to a free street library or go to a charity shop in the town that I live in. What do you do with books that you are unhauling, or is there any of those that you had really enjoyed? Don't forget to like and subscribe because I have new videos up every week. Now, get on out of here.